Sometimes, late at night, when the house has gone quiet and the lights are low, I get this strange feeling that the universe is breathing. Not in and out like lungs, but in a slow, endless stretch, like a sleeping giant turning over in the dark. And when I sit with that feeling long enough, another question slips in, almost like a whisper. If the universe is expanding, are we being torn apart? I don't mean in a dramatic movie way, with bodies flying and planets cracking like eggs. I mean in a softer, stranger way. Is the space between everything quietly stretching under our feet, between our atoms, between our memories, between the people we love? As I talk to you now, I imagine you in your own small world. Maybe you're lying on your bed or sitting in a chair or walking with headphones on. There's some faint sound in the background, a fridge humming, a distant car passing, the soft breath of someone asleep in the next room. And above all of that, beyond your ceiling, beyond the clouds, beyond even the stars you can't see because of city lights, space is growing. We call it cosmic expansion. But those are just words. To me, it feels more like this. Imagine dots drawn on a balloon. As the balloon gets bigger, the dots move away from each other. Not because they're walking, because they're trying to escape, but because the thing they sit on is stretching. That's the universe. Not a balloon, of course, but something like it. Every galaxy, every cluster of light, riding on this invisible skin that keeps getting bigger. The strange part is you can't hear it. There's no creaking sound of fabric. You can't smell it. Space has no scent, no hint of dust, no taste of metal or ozone. It's just silence, a silence that's moving. I remember being a kid, lying on my back in a small yard, staring up at a sky that smelled faintly of wet soil and old leaves. There was a light breeze. I could feel it brushing the tiny hairs on my arms, cool and gentle. I didn't know much about physics then. All I knew was that the stars looked so still, like tiny holes poked into a dark ceiling. I couldn't imagine them racing away from me. They felt fixed, like old memories. But the truth is, they're not fixed. Almost everything out there is pulling away from almost everything else, like glowing boats drifting apart on a dark, endless sea. The farther away a galaxy is, the faster it seems to move from us. It's as if the map of the universe is slowly zooming out, and every point is trying to give every other point more room. Sometimes I imagine what that would look like if we could see it in fast forward. Close your eyes for a moment and picture it with me. Imagine the night sky not as a still curtain, but as a time lapse. The stars and galaxies would slowly slide away, not just to the left or right, but outward like a blooming flower made of light. The black gaps between them would grow and grow. The universe would feel thinner somehow, more stretched, more lonely. And that's where the question gets under my skin. If the universe is expanding, if space itself is stretching, does that stretching ever reach us? Does it reach into your body, into the bonds that hold atoms together, into the quiet warmth between you and the people you care about? Are we being torn apart by this invisible expansion so slowly we don't even notice? The honest answer, at least for now, is no. Not in the way you might fear. The expansion of the universe is real, and it's powerful on large scales, but it's also strangely gentle on small ones. It's like a slow tide that can push apart continents over ages, but can't slip into the spaces between your fingers when you hold someone's hand. The forces that hold your body together, the ones that keep the atoms in your skin, in your bones, in your eyes, they're so much stronger than this cosmic stretching. Even gravity, the thing that keeps you on Earth, the thing that holds our planet in orbit around the sun, is strong enough to resist the expansion locally. It's like being tied with strong ropes while the floor under you is very slowly moving. You don't feel the drift because the ropes are tighter than the pull. Right now, the expansion is winning only on the biggest scales. Between galaxies that are not tightly bound to each other, space grows like dough rising in an oven. The clusters of galaxies, like the one we live in, are held together by their shared gravity. Inside those clusters, space is not really stretching them apart. They're like raisins in a dense part of the bread that doesn't rise as much as the rest. But this is where the story gets more mysterious, because we've learned that the expansion is not just continuing, it's speeding up. Imagine throwing a ball into the air and watching it not slow down and fall, but suddenly rise faster and faster, as if pushed by some unseen hand. That's what seems to be happening to the universe. We gave that strange push a name. Dark energy. It sounds like something from a fantasy story, but it's really just our way of saying we see the effect, but we don't know the cause. We see the galaxies separating faster than they should, as if space itself has decided it wants more of itself. When I think about dark energy, I don't imagine a mystical force. I think of a quiet pressure, everywhere, all the time, like a soft wind you can't feel on your skin. It doesn't blow from one direction to another. It's just there, built into the fabric, encouraging it to expand. It doesn't make a sound. It doesn't glow. If you walked through it, you'd never know. And yet it's shaping the entire future of the cosmos. The idea that emptiness has energy inside it is one of those thoughts that makes me pause. I might be sitting at a table, fingers wrapped around a warm mug, smelling faint coffee and a hint of something sweet. And then suddenly my mind drifts. The space between my hand and the cup, between the cup and the wall, between the wall and the moon. According to this picture, even that nothing is not really nothing. It has a kind of energy written into it, a quiet script. It makes me wonder what empty really means. We say we feel empty sometimes, lonely, hollow, as if nothing is inside us. But in the cosmos, emptiness is not weak. It might be the very thing that's pushing entire galaxies apart. Maybe our own inner emptiness is not as empty as it feels either. Maybe there's something hidden in those silent spaces inside us, some push we don't yet understand. But let's come back to the fear that started this. Are we tearing apart? There is a scenario people talk about, whispered under a name that sounds almost playful, but isn't. The Big Rip. It's an idea, not a certainty. It says that if dark energy is not just constant, but actually gets stronger over time, then one day it might overwhelm everything. Not just the gaps between galaxies, but the galaxies themselves. Not just the space between stars, but between planets. Not just between you and the chair you sit on, but between the atoms in your body. Imagine it, just as a story, far, far in the future, so far that our age, our world, our worries are long forgotten. The universe has grown cold and dark. Most stars have burned out. Galaxies are faint shadows. Dark energy has grown stronger, like a tide that keeps rising, past every mark. First, it pulls galaxies away from each other faster than gravity can hold them. Then it starts to unbind the galaxies themselves. Stars drift apart. Solar systems come undone. Planets lose their grip on their suns. Then even closer in, this expansion becomes so strong, so urgent, that it challenges the forces inside atoms, the electric pull between particles. At some final moment, everything that was bound unbinds. The universe doesn't explode. It just lets go. Everything that was once a something turns into a lonely nothing, stretched across a space that's growing too fast to stay whole. It's a chilling picture. But remember, it's one possible ending among others. We don't know if dark energy behaves like that. Maybe it stays gentle and steady. Maybe it's just enough to keep things drifting apart on the largest scales, but never strong enough to tear apart atoms. Maybe the universe just keeps expanding forever, slowly, silently, until distant galaxies slip beyond our view and the night sky grows emptier and emptier, like a room where the lights are being turned off one by one. There's another version too, where dark energy might fade or change or even reverse. In that story, the expansion could slow and stop, and one day begin to contract. The universe would start to pull back in on itself, like a breath exhaled for billions of years, then finally drawn back in. Galaxies would come closer, then collide more often. Heat and light would concentrate again. In the distant end, everything might fall together into a final intense state, a big crunch. We don't know which path is ours. The data we have now points toward a universe that keeps expanding faster and faster, not one that turns back. But our understanding is still young, like a child trying to guess the end of a long, complicated story after reading just one early chapter. What we do know is this. On human scales, on the scale of a life, a family, a city, even a planet, we are not being torn apart by cosmic expansion. You can hold a hand, and the space between your fingers will not quietly grow. You can build a home, and the bricks will not slide away from each other because the universe is stretching. The bonds that hold us here are strong enough, for now. But there's another kind of tearing, isn't there? A more familiar one. Not physical, not cosmic. The slow expansion of time between people. The way years can stretch and distance can grow. And someone who used to be close becomes a faint memory, like a galaxy slipping toward the edge of your sky. Sometimes I think about when I look at a faint star. The light I see left that star a long time ago. Maybe hundreds of years. Maybe millions. Maybe more. What I see is not what is, but what was. A message from the past crossing the darkness, finally arriving in my eye like a gentle tap on the shoulder. And in that moment, I realize the cosmos is not just expanding in space. It's stretching in time, too. Every second that passes puts more distance between what was and what is. We feel that in our lives. The child you were is still there somewhere in your memories, but far away, like a small, bright galaxy in the distance. You can still see them. You can still remember what the world smelled like then. The chalk of classroom walls, the grass on a summer field, the salt of tears after a scraped knee. But you can't go back. The space between you and that moment has stretched. Are we tearing apart? In some ways, yes, but not because of dark energy, because of time, because of change, because the universe refuses to stay still, and neither do we. And yet, even as everything drifts, there are those small, stubborn islands of connection. Gravity holds galaxies together. Electromagnetic forces hold atoms together. On another level, love, memory, shared stories, these hold people together. We create our own little clusters in the middle of this expanding ocean. Our families, our friendships, our communities are like small galaxy groups, bound by invisible forces that are just as real as gravity, even if you can't write an equation for them. When astronomers measure the expansion of the universe, they use light from distant objects, like special stars or bright explosions called supernovae. They measure how much the light has stretched on its journey to us. The more it's stretched, the faster that object is moving away. That stretching of light is like a fingerprint of expansion. The colors slide toward the red end of the spectrum, like a song playing slower and lower. I think about that when I listen to old songs from my childhood. The same song, the same melody, but it feels different now. Slower, heavier. It's not that the song changed, I changed. The context around it expanded. More years, more experiences, more losses and joys wrapped around those notes. The meaning stretched. In a way, my own life has a kind of redshift. The further back I look, the more the light of those moments feels softened by distance. So no, cosmic expansion is not tearing your body apart. Not now. Not in this age of the universe. But it is tearing something else apart in a gentle but relentless way. The closeness of everything on the largest scales. Galaxies that can see each other now will one day be forever out of reach. Their light will never arrive. Their stories will never be shared. The universe is slowly hiding its own past from its future. We live in a special window of time. Right now, we can still see the echo of the beginning, the faint afterglow of the Big Bang, a kind of fossil light that fills the sky in every direction if you look with the right eyes. We can still see billions of galaxies, like fireflies scattered across a dark field. But in the very distant future, If there are beings, then they might not see any of this. Their sky might be almost empty. No hint of expansion. No clue that there were ever other galaxies. They might think their little patch of stars is all there is. That thought makes me feel something I can't quite name. A mix of sadness and wonder and urgency. We're alive at a time when the universe is still open to us, like a book with all its pages visible. We can read the story of how things began, and we can make guesses about how they'll end. We can see our place in the grand motion, not at the center, not at the edge, but somewhere in between, on a small rock circling a small star in a quiet arm of a spiral galaxy. On clear nights, if you've ever been far from city lights, you know the feeling of looking up and seeing the Milky Way, this pale river of light running across the sky. It almost looks like a cloud, but it's not. It's our galaxy, seen from inside. Billions of stars packed so tightly in our line of sight that they blend into a soft glow. When I see that, I feel small, but not in a bad way. More like correctly sized, like realizing I am a single note in a much bigger song. And that song is changing. The pitch of the universe is shifting, slowly, deeply. The chords are stretching. Space itself is the instrument, and dark energy is turning the tuning peg, almost too slowly to notice. But we've noticed. That's one of the most beautiful and unsettling things about being human. We are tiny, short-lived, fragile, and yet somehow we've figured out that the universe is expanding. We've measured it. We've argued over it. We've put numbers on the speed at which galaxies are fleeing from us. There's something almost poetic about that. We are made of atoms forged in stars. Those stars are part of galaxies. Those galaxies are riding the expansion of space. And here we are, little pieces of that process, sitting in quiet rooms, whispering to each other through wires and screens, asking if the thing that made us is also pulling us apart. I sometimes think of the universe as a great tapestry being woven and stretched at the same time. Threads of matter and light and time pulled across an invisible frame. Some parts of the pattern are tight and detailed, like you and me, like Earth, like our solar system. Other parts are loose and wide, like the voids between galaxy clusters, huge spaces with almost nothing in them. Dark energy is like the hand that keeps gently pulling the frame wider. It doesn't care about the pattern. It just keeps stretching. But within that stretch, new patterns still appear. Stars are born. Planets form. Life may rise, here and possibly elsewhere. Beings look up and wonder. Even as everything pulls away on the grand scale, new bonds form on the small scales. A star holds its planets. A planet holds its oceans. A heart holds another heart in a quiet room. Expansion doesn't erase connection. It just sets the stage around it. There's something else, too. The universe isn't just expanding in space. Entropy is increasing. That's a fancy word, but in simple terms, it means that over time, things tend to go from ordered to disordered, from neat to messy. An ice cube melts. A house left alone falls apart. A hot cup of tea cools down. Energy spreads out. Differences fade. On the largest scales, that's the direction we're heading. Toward a universe where everything is more even, more spread out, more calm, but also more cold, more quiet. Some call it heat death. Not because it's hot, but because all the useful, concentrated energy will have been used up. No more free energy to build stars, to drive life, to power thoughts. Tie that to expansion, and you get a picture of a universe that is not just getting bigger, but also more diluted, more washed out, like a color fading in sunlight. That sounds sad, and maybe it is in a way, but it's also just the story. The same way a wave rises and falls, the universe seems to be unfolding from a dense, hot, bright beginning into a wide, cool, dim future. Where do we fit in that? We are tiny ripples in the middle of this process. We are local reversals of entropy, little pockets where things have grown more complex and ordered for a while. Life takes energy and uses it to build structure, cells, bodies, thoughts, cities, stories. We are like brief, bright patterns on the surface of a slowly cooling sea. Maybe that's why we feel the question so strongly. Are we being torn apart? Because on some level, we sense that everything we know and love is temporary. Every building will crumble. Every memory will fade. Every star will one day go out. We long for something that doesn't stretch away from us, something that doesn't dissolve. But here's the quiet comfort I keep coming back to. Even if everything is moving apart, even if the universe is expanding and entropy is increasing, and the future is a long, cold dusk, that doesn't erase the fact that we are here now. The bonds we form in this brief window are real. The warmth of a hand in yours is real. The sound of rain on your window, the taste of your favorite food, the smell of someone's skin when you hug them, the sight of the first star at twilight. These are all small, local victories against the vastness. Cosmic expansion doesn't cancel those. It just surrounds them. Sometimes I like to imagine a far future observer, some being living trillions of years from now, in a tiny island of remaining stars, with most of the universe already unreachable, already gone beyond their horizon. They look up and see only the faint glow of their own galaxy, no hint of others. To them, the universe might seem small and static, not expanding at all. They might never learn what we know. And yet, we, here now, do know. We can look out and see galaxies rushing away. We can detect the leftover glow from the beginning. We can measure the rate at which the cosmic fabric is stretching. We can ask if this stretching will someday tear even the smallest things apart. We can fear that. We can accept it. We can wonder about it. That act of wondering, of turning our minds outward, is a kind of resistance too. A way of saying, I see you, universe. I see what you're doing. I'm tiny, but I'm paying attention. If you step outside on a cool night and take a deep breath, the air might smell faintly of damp earth, of asphalt cooling, of distant leaves. You might hear a dog bark far away, a car passing, a plane humming overhead. Under all that, there is the quiet rush of expansion. You can't hear it, but it's there. The space between that plane and the stars, between the stars and the galaxies, is growing. Atoms don't feel it. Planets don't feel it. But on the grand map, everything is drawing apart. And yet you can stand there perfectly still, feeling the ground solid beneath your feet. You are not being pulled apart. Your body is whole. Your thoughts are your own. You can choose to look at the sky and think, I am lost in something huge. Or you can think, the huge thing is happening and I am here to witness a piece of it. Both can be true at once. Are we tearing apart? On the largest scales, yes. So the cosmic web, this enormous network of galaxies and voids, is stretching. Distances are growing, paths are lengthening. Over unimaginable times, the universe is drifting into a more scattered, quieter state. But on the scales that matter most to us, the scales we can touch, we are held together by forces stronger than that stretch. Gravity, electromagnetism, chemistry, emotion, memory. There's a kind of strange, soft beauty in the idea that in a universe that is always pulling away from itself, we still reach for each other. We cross rooms, we write messages, we call friends, we build bridges, we say stay, we say I'm here, we say listen. Those words are like tiny acts of defiance against the grand separation. One day, long after we're gone, maybe long after our species is gone, the universe will keep expanding. It will not remember our names. It will not store our stories in its stars. But that doesn't mean those stories were meaningless. Meaning is not something the universe gives to us. It's something we create and place gently into the world, like candles in a dark hall. The universe stretches. We light candles anyway. So are we tearing apart? On a cosmic scale, the answer is that space itself is growing. And on the largest distances, things are drifting away from each other faster and faster. On the scale of galaxies not bound tightly by gravity, the answer is yes, they are being pulled apart by the expansion. On the scale of your heart, your home, your body, your atoms, the answer for now is no. You are held, you are solid, you are here. There's a soft comfort in knowing both truths at once. We live in a universe that is restless, always changing, always moving, never still. And we, made from its dust, carry that restlessness inside us. We grow, we age, we move on, we let go, we hold on. We are tiny echoes of the cosmic expansion and tiny resistances to it at the same time. If you ever feel like things in your life are falling apart, like distance is growing between you and what you love, you can remember this. Even galaxies drift. Even stars part ways. Even light stretches as it travels. Separation is written into the story of everything, but so is connection. Gravity still pulls. Forces still bind. Hearts still reach. Right now, as you listen to my voice. Somewhere a distant galaxy is sliding a little farther away, its light stretching just a bit more toward red. Somewhere, a new star is being born from cold gas clouds, warming its surroundings for the first time. Somewhere, a planet is cooling, forming oceans that smell of minerals and storms. Somewhere, maybe, another being is looking up at their own sky, wondering if their universe is tearing apart. We are all adrift in the same great expansion, even if we never meet. In the end, I don't think the most important question is whether the universe will rip us apart in some distant future. I think the deeper question is what we choose to do with the brief time we're held together. How we treat each other in this tiny, bright moment between the hot, dense beginning and the cold, stretched out end. How we carry the knowledge that everything moves away and still choose to move closer. Maybe our place in the universe is not to stop the expansion, not to fight the entropy, but simply to be aware of it, to feel it, and to answer it with our own small acts of meaning. To notice the stretching of space and respond by building bridges of understanding. To feel the pull of time and respond by savoring a shared meal, a shared laugh, a shared silence. To live as if our existence is both fragile and precious, because it is. The universe is expanding. One day it may be so wide and thin that almost nothing happens in it anymore. But right now, in this narrow slice of cosmic history, something is happening. You are here, listening. I am here, speaking. And between us, across whatever distance separates us, there is a connection, invisible, but real, like gravity holding two stars in orbit. We are not tearing apart. Not yet. For now, we are together in this vast, restless, growing universe, two small points of awareness floating in the dark, sharing a moment of understanding. And maybe in a cosmos that keeps stretching farther and farther apart, that simple shared moment is one of the most beautiful things that can exist.